Welcome to Smedden's podcast. Um, we had a good reception from the very first podcast, which you'll find archived on Smedden's.blog. This week, um, I'm going to do a piece on Freddie Anderson, who's my father. First of all, I'll read out the Wikipedia entry. Freddie Anderson, 11th September 1922, and died the 10th of December 2001. Was an Irish writer, playwright, author, poet and socialist. Born in Ballybay, County Monaghan, Ireland, became an influential figure in left-wing culture and folk music scene in the Glasgow from the 1950s until his death in 2001. I'll read the biography as well, I've got time. In 1942, Anderson joined the Royal Air Force at a time when some Irishmen signed up out of idealism, but more joined in order to send money home to struggling families. He was posted at a radar station at Crossmaglen, County Armagh, Northern Ireland, but also worked in India and Burma. Around this time, he met his wife Isabel, whom he married in 1951. Upon demobilisation in 1946, he moved to her native Glasgow, Scotland, a city in which took to instantly, although his work continued to be influenced by his beloved County Monaghan. In 1947, he joined the Glasgow Unity Theatre, effectively launching a career which saw him become a valuable player in Glasgow's left-wing artistic life. He later recalled that an encounter in Hull Street where he introduced himself to Roderick Macmillan set everything in train. Macmillan took the young Irishman to Craig's restaurant and bought him a cup of tea, and Anderson found his spiritual home in the Unity Centre. His first plays, 33 Years, were produced by the Glasgow Unity Theatre in the late 40s. His literary work in Lisa's community in Glasgow, where he lived, was recognised by an Irish Post Award. As a playwright, his 1979 work Crassipy was about the Scottish leftist politician John Maclean, who won a Fringe First Award at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Freddie became well known on the Glasgow political socialist Scottish-Irish international Republican scene. His poetry, stories, plays and songs all reflected his Celtic charm, blending Scottish and Irish history and culture in an anti-sectarian manner. As a poet of the oral tradition, his work could sometimes lapse into sentimentality, but his lyrics had the same insight as fellow modern poets such as Patrick Kavanagh. Late in life, he produced a book which drew together all his attributes: Oiny Hoy, a tale of the wanderings of a green fool, toys with Ireland's myths, stereotypes, pretensions and foibles. A gentle but effective satire is also translated with great success onto the Edinburgh Fringe stage. Towards the end of his life, Anderson had prepared further adventures of Oiny and was working on an autobiography, but illness which he struggled with for more than 20 years caught up with him in 2001, 2 years after he lost his wife and companion Isabel. Anyway, it's quite a fair description in Wikipedia. Now I want to go on to one of his essays, which I thought was still pertinent to some extent. It's called Freddie Anderson, the Culture of Glasgow. Generally speaking, and with few exceptions, it's obvious that Indigenous culture in Glasgow is finding it's a very difficult struggle to make its way. Why should this be? When there's a wealth of literary and theatrical talent in Glasgow, including its huge peripheral housing schemes. It's my opinion that the authorities for all their lip service to culture are very wary lest they open the floodplates in Glasgow to an immense popular culture, not Hollywood, Broadway or London based, that will sweep away with a few years of the hackneyed time-worn ideas have been foisted on people by a servile, manipulated media machine for decades. I also contend that this suppression and distortion of the truth began in Glasgow at the end of the 18th century with the appearance of Robert Burns' works in the Kilmarnock edition. These poems of Robert Burns were such a powerful exposure of the wickedness of the establishment and that it sent him scurrying for ways to undo the damage Burns was causing. Burns received not a single review in any Glasgow paper for his Kilmarnock edition, but two mealy-mouthed letters that might have come from Holy Willie's pen appeared in the Mercury, signed by Amicus, by an obvious denigrator of Burns. Such is how the authorities in Glasgow hailed Scotland's greatest literary genius ever. I will not choose to mention this had the great Edinburgh edition of 1787, the City of Fathers and Chamber of Commerce typings repented. They never did. Burns presented such a challenge to their philistinism, hypocrisy, and North British servitude that they erected the highest of monuments of George Square to the loyalist minions of Sir Walter Scott, decades before the pennies of the Glasgow people paid for much lower print of Robert Burns on the grass verge. And despite their sustained verbal accolades to Burns every January, they're still unrepentant. There is scarcely a plaque in the entire city to acknowledge the 20 or so link Burns had to Glasgow. However, the Glasgow's establishment treatment of genius and truth extended far beyond Burns to include anyone who challenged their dominion by wealth and power. It banned the local radical paper, The Spirit of the Union, and disposed its editors and hulks in 1819. They jailed Sandy Roger, the best satirist in Scotland. His excellent work is still excluded from the school curriculum. James Macfarlane, whose gifts were recognised both by Thackeray and Dickens, lived in poverty in a Glasgow attic, died of TB when he was only 30 years old, and was buried in a pauper's grave. Thus, the Rogers and Macfarlanes were neglected, and in their stead, throughout the whole of Victorian Glasgow, a lick-spittle, sentimental, pseudo-religious trash was foisted on the people of Glasgow in the name of poetry. Poetry was emasculated of its substance and strength, and the rubbish published in Glasgow was a mere mockery of the real thing. All this happened at a time when Glasgow was rapidly becoming the greatest slum city in Europe. What, you might ask, is the connection between poetry and slums? Well, poetry is the seminal source of all literature and can evoke a powerful protest against injustice. But the purpose of culture controlled by the upper classes, which were prospering at the expense of the masses in 19th century Glasgow, was to stifle the literature of protest and encourage a petty literature, a literature of escape from reality. It did not enhance reality, it worsened it. The other escapes were the wine and spirit palaces and the music halls, where the churches are plenty to comfort the pious. Schools and churches are newspapers combined to hide the facts and the real history of Glasgow from the people. A Glasgow person searching even today for the real history of his or her city is almost in the same bewildered state of a foster child looking for his real parents. It is so well concealed. The masters of culture have done this task exceedingly well. Hugh McDermott, Christopher Reeve, his real name, the greatest Scottish poet in the 2 centuries since Burns, saw through the culture game and called for a new alertness among people both in politics and creativity. It was in the 1930s, along with his friend Louis Crasset Gibbon, the best Scottish novelist of this century, matured. Neither of these exceptional authors had a smooth passage among the Philistines of Glasgow. McDermott's worldly circumstances were never very high, and Gibbon died in his 30s, were refused by a Glasgow publisher a offer of the second edition of that marvellous novel, A Scots Square. On the other hand, trash like No Mean City, A Slur in Glasgow, was peddled in England in tens of thousands of copies without a chirp of protest from our city fathers or our elevated Chamber of Commerce. This book created a false image that Glasgow was a city of thugs, whereas in fact it was a city of radicals and trade unions fighting for elementary rights. The real culture of Glasgow has existed not in the upper Ecklands but in the heart of Glasgow among the tenement dwellers. These created the bands to lead to the unemployed during the hunger marches of the 30s. I lay in people like John McLean and the Clydeside Workers' Committee, who defied both the Glasgow and London bosses in the fight against war and the exploitation of the poor. This is the real culture, though suppressed and hidden by the authorities. It survived underground and was always transmitted from parents to children from the early 19th century in the Glasgow tenements. It was not from the teachers in the schools or the Glasgow Herald journalists that folk learned to seek out the Glasgow weaver's grave in 1787 in Abergavenny Street, or the Sighthill Monument of 1820. It was their grannies and fathers and mothers and cousins and aunts. The real culture of Glasgow lay in the poets and writers like Sandy Rogers, James McFarlane, William Miller, Joe Curry, and artists like Harry Keir and Tom MacDonald, etc., in agitprop theatres like Unity Theatre Workshop and Wildcat. In recent days, it also insisted in the great rallies against the poll tax, for culture too is politics, exists in the proud, defiant songs of Matt McGinn and Hamish Henderson and dozens of others. It lies in the growing fight against injustice imposed by a Tory-elected English government in London, whose laws are administered by a pseudo-socialist gang in the city chambers and in India Street. They have shrunk the noble red banner into a diminutive rose, as puny as their brains, and are hell-bent on shrinking socialism to the same size. Both the city chambers and the Chamber of Commerce join together to perpetuate a capitalism that is all its brain over Eastern Europe's dilemmas is quite moribund itself. All of you lot will easily afford to see Pavarotti and Co., but spite of your ringside seats, you're still on the periphery of real culture, and you will ever remain so, for the simple reason that you've always regarded culture, and still do, as a commodity that money can buy. It cannot, no more than love or friendship. That's Freddie's essay from Worker City in the early 90s. And I'd like to turn to a poem of his.
A winding stretch of street down to the lonely brig, nor little west at first, then Canalrig, till commerce grew. Then suddenly the Clydeside knew the storms of industry. Factory and mill thronged the riverside, and still the rover came. Old Mungo's glade could never be the same. This quayside proved a doorstep to the poor from Ireland, and from the Scottish glen poured to the Gaelic hosts of Highlandmen, by fire and sword evicted. And now the lonely road shares the pilgrim and his aching load of sorrow. From Ayrshire and Dumfries the broken farmer came, and in the city shambles fought the pinch and shame of failure. They manned the mills and built canals and streets, amazed the world with engineering feats of wonder. Pioneering city on the Clyde, who can know and not be stirred with pride? This is no lowly birth. From fields of Scotland's glory, from Erin's Isle so rich in rebel story, sons of the Croppy, Culloden and Glencoe paved these streets and made the river flow, until great ships, the wonder of the sea, arose from their untiring industry. How could such men be slaves mere ant-like on the heap? To drones donate the harvest that they reap, a people rich in manly self-reliance, and red oft times in passionate defiance of tyranny. Our ancient conscience martyr on the brae, to Weaver Wilson at the cross gives way, and now heroic lustre begins his high ascent from small green graves among the tenements.